and nation building.
To MTV Community Forum. I'm your host, Byron Campbell. Welcome wherever you are. Chris, good evening.
Good evening,
Co-host.
Byron, and thank you, listeners and viewers, for being part of the program again this Wednesday evening. And of course, the rain has started to fall, so it's a good thing. We can get water in our pipes more consistently, and agriculture, the farmers also are pretty happy. And as I start on this agriculture thing, Byron, I want to put a question to you. I have noted in the press releases and other social media platforms that we're planning to plant 40,000 spice trees. Now, I think the idea is a lovely idea, because we are a spice country.
Yeah.
So obviously we need more cinnamon trees planted, and bay leaf, and of course, what do you call it?
Nutmeg
and so on.
But cinnamon.
Do you believe that we could get 40,000 cinnamon trees planted in Grenada and grow to a point of maturity where we could harvest and get more production of cinnamon?
And clove and bay leaf and
you've been in agriculture
and spices and nutmegs. Chris, first of all, let me say the idea is a good idea. I mean, from the point of view that we need to rehabilitate our spice sector, because from the past hurricanes we've had a major declines in nutmeg and the other spices. I think they want to include cocoa in this also, so there's a lot of issues with the industry. So the concept of of planting or replanting is a good one. But here's a government plan, at least this is what we're hearing, that what they've promoted, that they want to plant 40,000 trees this weekend. The cost of these trees, if you average it at $10, that's $400,000, $500,000. So it's an expensive input supply. Under normal circumstances, when Maribor distribute plants to farmers, there is a fairly high mortality rate. Amount that died, they don't survive, even with the personal care. And this amount averages as much as 30 to 40% sometimes, depending on the species. So in this instance, what we're seeing is that the government is in a laissez-faire way, in a broad way. People from the diaspora, or whoever you are, come plant. The question is, what I'm concerned about is who's going to take care of these plants? Where are they planting it? Because this volume of plant require good husbandry, care, fertilizing, weed, maintaining weed control, spacing, pruning, and care. And I'm concerned about that. And the likely...
You're estimating of 40,000 trees.
Yes.
If in a good way, and we have place and people care them, we could lose at least 50% of it.
Well, I think under the method at which it's been done, the mortality is going to be significantly higher than this, I would say. So for me, as a farmer, I don't see the viability or the feasibility in this. I believe this is more for a political purpose or for a picture opportunity, a photo opportunity. But in terms of results from this exercise, I am doubtful that this would be so.
And the other thing is, when we launch these types of initiatives, there's no feedback as to what happened and where they are. I've heard Maribor and Ministry of Agriculture complain that when they send out oranges or whatever, if they put out 10,000, probably it's only about $3,000.
That's correct. That's correct. I understand the process from the how you plant it, but the care for it, and even on the care, we still have high mortality rates. So I'm concerned of that. It will happen. I wish them well, but
I'm looking for 2 trees myself. I want to plant.
But I am.
I want to plant 2014.
This has to do more with politics. I don't think we will.
So
I don't think.
I won't get any trees.
I am doubtful. Yeah, you're going to get your trees, but I'm doubtful you're going to see any impact on the spice sector through this exercise. That's my
Well,
opinion.
Any major impact.
Any major
Might
impact,
be a minor
certainly.
impact.
Yes, certainly, Chris. That's my take
And
on
of
that.
course, before I'll finish with this one,
Yeah.
you know the war with Iran and the US and of course Israel and Lebanon.
Yeah,
1 minute we hearing there's an agreement, the straits open, next minute we hearing the straits close, and there's just standing, and based on all the reports that are coming in, this topsy-turvy thing between the US and Iran, it would appear that for the rest of this year, we are going to have seriously increased prices in fuel and other things,
yeah,
because the UAE and Saudi Arabia have indicated that it will take them 6 to 9 months to get back up to 14 million barrels
Yeah.
a day.
yeah.
So, and with what's happening with Trump and Iran, you're not sure whether
And
what's gonna
Israel,
Yeah.
we are not really.
happen. Yeah.
Even the present ceasefire not in line with the
Yeah, we
Israel
can't keep
political
violating it
thinking.
every day.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Killing children and
So
killing people.
essentially you're saying that, and even as we had the signing of the so-called peace agreement, our price, because of the method we've done, remain at $17
Yeah, but
a gallon.
generally for us, inflation is going to be at a relatively high figure
Yeah,
coming into Christmas.
yeah,
And of course, tourism is going to be affected when
Yeah.
the high season starts
Yeah.
in November,
Mhm.
thereabout. So, you know, what is going to happen with us and how are we preparing for it is going to be significant
Yeah.
for us, because we're going to have some effects.
yeah. The impact too with our carnival season coming at a higher cost of airfare, to what extent this is likely to affect our nationals and other persons coming on to carnival. So it's interesting, let's see. Chris, I was listening today of a UN commission, UN independent commission inquiry report on Gaza, particularly with the children. And Chris, what we found, what the report found out here is that, what the report highlighted and says that the essence of childhood has been destroyed. That is, and they're saying that this covered Gaza, East Jerusalem, and the West Bank, and the West Bank. But what they're saying essentially is that just over 20,179 children killed. That's 30% of all those that died in the war. The report went on to say that 44,000 children was injured. 26% of all the injuries. 5,031 were under the age of 5, including 420 newborns. 50,000 children are orphaned. 97% of the schools were destroyed. The hospital were caring the children. So what the report is saying that this action by Israel meets 4 out of 5 genocide convention criteria. Cities, soldiers were deliberately targeting sharpshooters, children, shooting them in the head and the upper parts of their body, preventing them from getting food. So a deliberate genocide of children. That report is so damning and so hurtful, that we can't.
It won't make a change.
Every
US continues to support Israel in their crimes.
Yeah.
And Israel is doing this without no apologies. We live in the 21st century, and here it is, we're calling ourselves advanced nations, and in terms of community and civilization. And we have 2 of the major superpowers, Israel and the United States, involved in genocide. And they're not going to be held accountable because they are no part of the international court. All we could do is have PR like what you're saying.
Yes,
let's
talk about it, let's identify it and let's isolate these countries. But the big question, we're not trading with them, not doing business with them, that's a start. Let's start with that. So one other question is,
we are more to lose than to gain.
Chris, one other question is, 1 in 3 killed in Gaza was a child. So as a Caribbean nations that lived in colonization and slavery should take a stronger UN position? Or is this Middle East conflict we stay neutral on. What do we do as a region?
We can't
Given
do-
we are looking for
What
reparation.
most we
right
could
now.
do is write
Yeah.
a release and say what
Yeah.
we feel,
But should we talk
But-
out in it because
because they
that-
have started weaponizing visas and everything to us.
Absolutely.
So it will just increase, and they will have an excuse to do what they have to do more.
Who's next?
So that's the point. So if nations like the US and if the bigger nations in the world like the Europeans,
Yeah.
who trying to kill us for CBI,
Yeah.
why don't you talk about that?
Yeah.
You don't hear nothing from the Europeans.
Well, the Europeans are actually, they provide Israel with spare parts and.
But that's the point.
and
So
they are- they
who
are-
is
they are- they are in a-
CARICOM? Who is
But look-
CARICOM who is minuscule?
But let us, we are a member of the United Nations, and this is a United Nations report that is officially recognizing that, are giving us the data
That
and the
is good,
statistics.
but-
So that's important. Let's call it out. Let us say it is wrong.
I'm not saying don't call
Yeah,
it
that's
out.
the point.
What I'm
Let's call
saying
it
is, what would effect
Yeah.
would it have on these two countries?
Well, Chris, I don't know, but that's a start.
Yeah,
You know, it is unacceptable. and
They
it
do
is
things
wrong.
with impunity.
Yeah.
Don't
Chris-
forget Venezuela.
Of course. Chris, let's move to Cuba, because this affects us. Cuba has recently passed, they have had 175 economic reforms, and this includes allowing private banks, real estate, state properties. You know, there was economic reforms, and these are critical things. And people are asking is Cuba saving socialism with capitalism or killing it? Can the market economy work without political reform? So the market economy is changing, and some people argue that this is very much similar to what China went.
Yes.
But the political system remains in place. Can it work? Will it work?
It can if the U.S. was to release the sanctions on Cuba.
Yeah.
And if they were to model the system
Yeah.
similar to the Chinese,
Yeah.
and the Chinese system has worked for many
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
then I believe the Cubans will have an issue with work and
Yeah.
work ethic
Yeah.
in terms of our people. And in terms of their level of intelligence and qualifications in the medical field and engineering, they're far above the rest in normal circumstances. So I don't think it's a people issue. It's an issue of how the reforms can get trained in this economic system that they're trying to now build and reform. But that could only go so far. You could do internal reform, but if you don't have external support in what you're doing, if you have private banks and you have new laws for private banks, but banks not coming in because of the sanctions on the U.S. is one thing, but they won't come. What is happening to foreign exchange in these reforms and the laws that they're doing? So the issue here becomes, do we sit down and accept, as you have always said from the UN, everybody
Yeah.
saying the sanctions should be lifted,
Yeah.
except the big bad U.S. will never do it. Not in Donald Trump time. So I applaud what the people in Cuba are doing
Yeah.
and what the government is trying to do. But it must come with external support.
Chris, we have a new minister responsible for, what's that ministry called? Digital what?
ICT and
ICT. But anyway, the parliament has just passed a bill, it's into law now, called setting up a digital transformation agency. This law creating this agency, one digital system for all government services, essentially. So they say greater efficiency, but the question is efficiency versus privacy. I mean, the fact that 20%, for example, of the rural elderly has no smartphone, they risk getting left behind. How do they access this?
Well, yes and no, because our elderly would not acclimatize themselves with the new digital technology, whether it's through their phones or the banks or the financial sector or the credit unions. That is a fact. So people close to our seniors, their grandchildren or their children will be the ones that have to assist them through this transformation. So it is not, for them, it's not going to be a issue of acceptance. So we have to find other ways to get them involved, if those who are willing to be involved.
Yeah.
And I applaud the government for this bill passing for this digital
They like
transformation.
the name Transformation Agency, you
Well,
know.
the government, as they call word
So you're
transformation.
comfortable with it, Chris?
Well, I have no issues with it. Once the aims and objectives of what it's set up for can be achieved.
Yeah.
And we have a new minister, and we have to give the new minister an opportunity to prove.
Chris, what about
That these things can work.
data protection oversight? The opposition was raising this in the parliament a is that cause for concern? I mean,
It is. Data protection generally in the world is a major issue. And the major businesses like banks and credit unions and even our voting data
Yeah.
list
Yeah.
have to be protected seriously
Yeah.
in this development of the software and what is running in the background. And we have hackers that are very, very talented, and they could come in on any time of our systems, and they go for the weakest link and infiltrate your system and then sell your data, block it until they have to ransom pay them before they release it. So it's a serious concern when you go more digital and you put more data available on the system. But that's
Yeah.
where the world is going.
Yeah.
Just now we will be in digital money. Barbados have it already,
Of course.
right?
Of course.
BIMPay, or what they call it, and that is totally digital.
Yeah.
And with Trump putting taxes on things like Western Union and making it more expensive,
Yeah.
there's a young man I'm informed that have an app in Grenada that could go around the system. All
Excellent.
digital money.
Chris, I didn't see you at the rally, the mega rally,
Where that was?
in Montrose on Sunday evening.
No, I don't go to nothing mega
But I
in
didn't
terms
see
of
you.
rally.
I mean, I was looking on television.
Since in the days of the revolution, I don't do that. I stopped doing that.
But Chris, anyway, I mean, the reports are that there were upwards of, I hear, 7,000, 10,000. I mean, numbers are well. But what was the main takeaway? Well, let me just say first that what I heard, or what I could recall, is statements that there's no election being called certainly immediately.
There was no major announcement.
Announcement.
The
Well,
Prime Minister indicated there will be 4 major announcements prior to the rally.
but one of the big announcements was that the government or the party is going to use, the population is going to go to the people in the formulation of its manifesto. Is that a
Yeah.
good thing, Chris?
Well, I think it is a strategic thing to do, because you need to understand what the people would like to see in terms of the pressing needs and other things.
Well, Chris, hold on. So when you talk about the people, if a political party goes around the community to organize its manifesto, it's only speaking to its supporters, because it's a partisan matter.
Well, yes,
So it's
that
not the
is-
people.
Well, that is part of the.
So
So
how do you
you're not
deal-
sure
how do you
how they're
deal with
doing
that?
it.
How do you deal with that?
The
this
town
dimension
hall.
of it? Yeah.
The town hall, I don't know if they invite all people to come there, including
But it's a
non-party people.
manifesto. It's a partisan manifesto. It's a
Yes,
party
yes,
manifesto.
yes, but the manifesto must reflect the needs of the people, not only
Exactly.
politically, right? So you may get people from the other side coming and say, listen, we have a problem with healthcare, we have a problem with something else,
Yeah.
roads in the area, something. So the manifesto must reflect in general terms the sectors that the government is going to
So they
target.
were dealing with 4 years of transformation. Did you pick up any of that in the address? In terms of the accomplishment of the party or of the government?
Well, let
in the
me
last
let
4
me be
years?
absolutely honest here. I didn't listen to the rally in its entirety.
Okay.
I only took snippets here and there.
Right.
And to me, what I heard, in some parts of what I heard, was they're repeating things that they have done. And you know, I think one person is saying that the roads has been fixed. When you add it up, it's transformative. I don't know if that is how you do it.
Yeah.
But roads generally has always be addressed when an election is pending. So the incumbent will do the roads and hope that it will help in terms of projects and vote and money in people's pockets. So those are normal things. I keep saying, I as an individual, judging them over the 4 years, I have not recognized anything major in terms of transformative.
You're not looking, Chris. Probably that's
Probably I
why.
can't see with my eyes.
Maybe, I don't know. But if you look, well, you have the Project Polaris, you have the
How you started Polaris,
Chris,
and
give
you
me a
can't
break,
go
man.
more.
Chris, we will come back to that. Chris, we have to come back to that. You know, that was not. But the numbers look good,
Yeah.
wouldn't you say?
At
At
the
the
rally?
rally, yes.
Well, I put it this way. If
Something
they had
like mobilization,
12,000
which is-
people there,
Yeah.
the NDC base is what, 30 or 40,000 people?
Not 40, I think it's 22,
Or 30?
30. I'm not sure.
Right,
So
but if the
around
base is around
20-something, yeah.
20-something thousand, that is just less than 50%.
Yeah. And the diaspora is here too, of course. Chris, it's a big deal.
I mean,
Yeah.
in all fairness, the weather wasn't the best for the day.
And the playing field looks
Yes.
terrible now. I mean,
So,
there have been some
in the
repairs
playing
there.
field, there's still more on the edges
Yeah.
in terms of the traffic.
Yeah.
And you're hoping that
Yeah.
the cricket pitches wasn't totally
total.
interfered with, so.
But Chris, the other thing is the head of the president of the Public Workers Union, Daisy Hazard, she's been in the news lately, I think in the newspaper, some
Yeah.
commentary about arrest. What was it about? That was a clear on the issue.
Based on what I have read and so on, Daisy wrote an article
Yeah,
essentially saying that George Worm and Kim Jones,
yeah,
in the way they release information and how they do it, they should be arrested because the malfeasance is a lot of bad press about people and they
Okay.
get down really in the gutter.
yeah,
And she's saying over the years, nobody has addressed these two gentlemen
yeah,
and challenged them in any
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
And she, in her opinion, based on how they have handled themselves in the
Yeah.
press, they should be arrested or the government should, the police should investigate them. But that seemed to have caused raise an ant's nest because people started threatening Daisy personally based
Yeah,
on
okay.
what she wrote in her Facebook post and
Yeah.
saying that, that wouldn't faze her because that's nothing new to her,
Okay.
but it has gotten really ugly based on, I suppose, the people who listen to Kim Jones and support
Right,
George
right,
Worm's
right.
paper. So it is not a nice thing from a press point of view, and we're washing our dirty linen in the public, and that is
Yeah.
unfortunate.
fortunate.
Yeah.
Chris, that's all the time we have for this. Look, our guest this evening, 2 weeks ago we had Claude Douglas on. He was via Zoom and the communication, the reception was poor. So we've invited him back. He's here in person tonight. Of course, Claude is a sociologist and a lecturer and an author. We're going to be talking a lot about what's taking place in our economy, in particular rural economies and the politics of the day. So viewers, stay with us. We'll have Claude Douglas with us in a moment. We'll see you shortly.
Fit for Life and Allied Laboratories, providing quality care and expertise. Fit for Life and Allied Laboratories, see our in-house doctors and our pharmacies. Get expert care and quality tests. When it comes to your health, you deserve the best. Fit for Life and Allied Laboratories, we're taking care of Grenada.
Grenadians at home and across the diaspora. Join IMA Grenada at the Grenada Homecoming 2026 Diaspora Forum and Marketplace. On Tuesday, 30th June, we'll be participating in the Investment Roundtable, engaging in meaningful conversations on investment, opportunity, and Grenada's future. Whether you're looking to reconnect, explore opportunities, or contribute to national development, we invite you to be part of the discussion. From June 30th to July 2nd at the Radisson Convention Center, you would find the IMA Grenada team ready to inform you on how you could be a part of Grenada's evolution. Register at homecoming.gd. We look forward to seeing you there.
calling all returning diaspora family and everyone right here at home. As part of the massive diaspora homecoming celebration, the Rotary Club of Grenada has the perfect pre-carnival event for you. Presenting Rhythm and Spice, a Rotary brunch experience. It's on Sunday, 28 June from 3 p.m. right here at Quarantine Recreational Park. We've got live performances by Sakina and the Alpha One Band, plus guest artists and DJs keeping the energy all night. The dress code? Brunch chic with island elegance, and don't forget to add a touch of spice. So come sip, savor, socialize, and support. And let's welcome the diaspora home in style. See you there.
In Grenada, sports aren't just a game, they're a way of life. They teach discipline, teamwork, and resilience. They inspire the next generation to push boundaries and chase excellence. That's why the Investment Migration Agency of Grenada is proud to support sports initiatives as part of our commitment to youth and national development. When we invest in sports programs, we invest in the future. We invest in the health and well-being of our youth, and we invest in broadening Grenada's reach, proudly connecting our athletes, our talent, and our nation to a global community. Together, we all go further. The Investment Migration Agency. Unlock the possibilities.
Welcome back, viewers, to MTV Community Forum. I'm your host, Byron Campbell, of course, co-host, and our guest, special guest this evening is Claude Douglas. As I mentioned earlier, Claude was here. We was on the program 2 weeks ago, but bad communication, Claude, so we had to get you back in studio. Welcome. Of course, you're a sociologist, you're author, lecturer, and an activist in terms of talking a lot about policies and state of affairs. Claude, let me start by looking at the state of Grenada and say that the economic indicators, most economic indicators, suggest Grenada has experienced relatively good, strong economic growth in recent years, driven largely by a robust tourism sector, construction, citizenship by investments, earning millions of dollars by investment revenues. Yet many Grenadians say they're struggling more than ever with food prices, utilities, rent, whatever. How do you explain, how do we explain this disconnect between national economic growth and household reality?
Well, very good question. You have to remember that economic growth statistics is one thing. The lived reality is quite another. Okay? When you look at Grenada, you will see that most of our, what they call large companies, or medium to large companies, basically are foreign owned. But whatever they generate here must be computed with the gross domestic product, right? Total value of goods and services produced here. But the sad reality is these profits generated here, most of it basically repatriated. So there is no trickling down effect, but on paper it's reflected, whether it's 5% or 5.5% growth in the economy. But the trickling down effect basically is not felt, among the people, all right? So there is a struggle. And last October, I published a book titled Surviving the Cost of Living Crisis. Not a lamentation, but actually to offer some advice to people as how to navigate, because people are really struggling. People, we have a poverty that is dressed up,
Explain that.
Dressed up in the sense that we don't see it. We are a very proud people, especially this generation now. In the past, you had this kind of social interdependence in the village where people actually supported each other, people asked for help and so forth. This is not very pronounced in this generation in which we are living. So there are people, yes, when you see them on the street, you know, they look, you know, they project an image basically that is far from the reality.
So is this economic growth without broad-based development?
Let me challenge the trickle-down thing, because the government people and economic development will say construction is booming. Construction is one of the sectors that will have trickle-down, because you have the truckmen getting thing. These men, when they get their money, they spend in the bars. They spend in the small shops. So you could be challenged that there is trickle-down from just that sector. I'm not talking about the other sectors, because we have education services that may not have trickle-down. But construction in its way it's organized will offer some trickle-down.
Yes, but at the same time, you know, you have to look at the widespread impact. You know, as you're saying that if you have a multi-sectoral trickling down, you know. So okay, we're no longer doing much cocoa, nutmeg, and bananas, and that was that's the point I'm making.
That was a major thing for the world economy.
That's the point I'm making.
That is almost non-existent now for a lot of the younger generation.
And even with the non-traditional export crops that we are doing now, in terms of the vegetable farming and what have you, there's lack of market. You understand? I mean, there's a lack of market. I had a friend, a neighbor, who was drowning in pumpkins. You understand? He had no markets because everybody else were planting the same thing and what have you. So, yes, apart from the construction industry, yes, we will find that happening. And again, too, we can also challenge, you know, the whole issue of mechanization and automation and all of those things, you know, because the labor, you know, not much, you know. You have, for example, this reluctance sometimes by young men, you know, because economically they are telling you it's not really worth it to leave Tivoli or La Poterie to go to Grand Anse to work, you know, where transportation might account for one third, you know, of maybe the $80 or $90. So there's a refusal, and sometimes we see that basically as not wanting to work, but it's not as wanting to work, but sometimes it becomes a serious challenge for them.
But you could counter again by saying the minimum wage was brought up, and significantly too. So I mean, we can't say we agricultural workers. I know Rags Byron to chime in here. Agricultural workers will normally come on your farm and give you 4 hours.
Yeah, 4 hours. Yeah.
And they expect a full day's pay. In no other sector you're getting that.
No.
Right? And no, whether it's retail trade, whether it's services, whatever, they are privileged in that sense because they say the sun hot and they're working outside. So here, then still, and asking you the question, why it is that we see major shortages in labor in agriculture?
Definitely.
And you're working for 4 hours and you're getting a full day's pay?
Definitely. You know,
is it an attitudinal thing, or is it something that we socially we don't want to go back to?
I think it's an attitudinal thing. I think that we have a number. I'm speaking from the backdrop that I had a sister with a farmer, and it was difficult for her, you know, to find workers. You know, and sometimes she has to bribe them, letting them know it's just for the day. You know, and while they get on the farm, she will say, okay, well, can you come tomorrow? Because if you tell them it's long term, that's a problem.
Right.
There are a lot of young people in this country who do not want to work prominently, in the sense that they don't want to know that they have to get up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to go to work. You give them a hustle, you know.
Well, you know, just to augment your point, recently we had a guy in construction, and he had a young man that came in and worked for 2 weeks, fortnight. And the young man, in his view, worked well and did everything, and he understood what he was doing. But after he got paid the Friday, that was the end, and he didn't see him. So he went back and looked for him, and he said, well, boss, why? I was looking for you to come back. He said, no, he got enough money to buy sneakers, and that was it.
Right, okay. So I'm glad you touched
So from a social point of view, asking you that.
I'm glad you touched that point. What we just touched on, there's a theory developed by one called Oscar Lewis, talking about the culture of poverty. Right, and one of the characteristics of the culture of poverty is that people are present, day-oriented. They live for the day. So they get enough money. He wanted his sneakers. He got his sneakers. You understand me? When that wear off a little bit, he will go again to get something.
Right.
So they get enough money to survive a day or 2 days. You know, they can buy some food to eat.
It's a day-to-day kind of
day-to-day
function,
kind of
yeah.
thing.
Survival.
And not very futuristic.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't really look at the future to
yeah.
see. They just
Right.
want
The
to
moment.
happen today.
The moment.
Tomorrow again, you look for another hustle when that money is
There's
finished.
a lot of people in
But
that.
as long as the money,
Yeah.
you understand me,
Yeah.
is in their pocket.
But Claude,
Yeah.
has agriculture become unattractive, or have we failed to modernize it? Why are we not
I think
attractive?
it has to do with the whole
Yeah.
aspect of modernization,
Yeah.
you know, and not only modernization, too, the whole issue of marketing, because that's my
Yeah.
biggest problem in agriculture.
So
Understand me?
you believe marketing board should exist?
Of course,
Okay.
of course, but marketing board basically has to just be restructured, and in terms of the intentions,
Yeah.
you know, I was in St. Vincent, and their marketing board is located on the port.
I know.
Right? The marketing board is located there, and farmers in truckloads of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's export oriented.
I went to the meat store to get beef weekend gone, and there's no beef.
No.
And the guy who I normally will buy meat from says he's going to St. Vincent this week to get some cattle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't rear cattle.
So
there.
that's the follow-up thing. So we
Yeah.
import a large amount of our food,
Definitely.
a large amount of food we
Definitely.
consume, despite having fertile lands, long
But the irony-
agriculture.
but the irony-
So is it an economic issue, a cultural issue, or a failure of planning? Why?
Planning, that's a failure of planning, because
Failure of planning.
we speak about food sustainability, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, there is no serious effort, you understand me, to put this in effect, right? It's like a soundbite, you know, we talk about these things and what have you, but there is no serious plan to say, okay, this is what we are going
Yeah.
to do, so that we would have enough food for
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
and we have enough food for later. But there is no
Well,
plan.
We have a 2035 plan
Uh-huh.
that
Yeah.
addresses every
Yeah.
sector and every social thing in the country. And every budget that comes, agriculture gets reduced in terms of the amount of money that is awarded to agriculture. And the question becomes, we have a 2035 plan on paper. The Prime Minister is
Thank
talking
you so
about
much. Thank you so much.
2075 and so on. But is it that we are not putting an action plan in place with timelines and dates to get certain things moved or achieved, particularly in agriculture and
you
food?
know, and I know, and Mr. Campbell knows also, that we have a lot of plans. We have a lot of plans. We go do workshops, we do training sessions, we come up with plans and all of those things. But having a plan and putting a plan into effect is a vast, vast difference. And I think that's the problem here we have. You know, we have a lot of written papers, projects, research.
But you part of TAMCC.
Yeah.
Maribo is now a big thing on their agenda and the radar.
Yeah, definitely.
And the government is doing a lot to get
Yeah.
Maribo back up and
Yeah,
active.
Definitely.
But the issue with Maribo in the past is you qualify young farmers,
Mm-hmm.
male and female, and then they have no land to go and work to
That's
get
the point.
things done.
That's the point.
So we come out with the qualifications,
Mm-hmm,
and you ain't hearing money about letting them do shade houses, bringing them more up to them. You ain't hearing that technology transfer.
Definitely, and that's a very important point in terms of the transition, because you had, for example, people who were enrolled in the agricultural program, and on completion, they joined the police force.
That's the point.
No, they-
Or security.
Or security, or they go teaching or
Yeah.
something of sort, because there is no empowerment of those individuals, right? Because they do the 2-year program. They do the 2-year program. And after the 2-year program, the government basically does not really engage them to say, okay, well, look,
So there's a dislocation.
this is a dislocation.
But Chris, let's deep a little. I mean, Claude, let's deep a little more into the rural economies. You know, we see more betting shops, lotteries, online gambling
Definitely.
platforms. We see how we call them last time, Chris.
Brass.
Huh?
Brass?
No, not the blast.
oh.
I'm talking about the strip clubs.
Oh,
We're
strip
seeing
clubs,
more
yeah,
of this.
yeah.
Are these activities, gambling, etc., becoming a substitute for economic opportunities?
Well,
What's happening?
well,
Why is
definitely.
this happening?
Well, definitely. There are different ways in which people attain what we call cultural goals, right? So the same gambler, the same person that is engaged in drug peddling, he wants the same house. He wants to drive the same car that you drive, right? But he does not want to pursue what we call legitimate means in order to get at. Okay? And the more illegitimate opportunities you have in a society, basically, the more people will shy away from illegitimate means of attaining those goals. So, for example, if a young man could gamble every night, and at the end of the week, let's say he has a net of $600-700 in his pocket, you can go and offer him a job. You understand? He makes his money on his own timing. You understand me? He has his own independence, you know, and all of those things. And more of these things happen. You talk about the striptease, right? I was doing some unofficial investigation and study of this thing. And the amount of money, you know, guys, I mean, the promoters of it, you know, the young ladies and so forth, there's a lot of money, monies that have been spent, you know, on this thing. If you look at every bingo, right, inclement weather, you cannot stop any bingo. And I have evidence of this because recently they held one in Forest Park, and it was a rainy evening, you know, and that basically did not discourage the attendance and so forth and what have you. So wherever there is monies to be made, all right, that will be provided by illegitimate activities and all of those things, you will find there's a little
But let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
You're a sociologist, of course. And when you see these trends happening in our society, we have a government in office.
Yeah.
You're not hearing much discussion around that. And how do we re-socialize, for want of a better word, our minds of our young people? That's what take care of you and me. Through NIS and other things.
Definitely.
How do we re-socialize them, especially with AI and all of that that's going to disrupt the normal way of doing things? How are we going to address that politically and otherwise? Because you're not hearing parties talking much about the issues that you see and the social changes in the minds of these young people.
Definitely, you know.
And you're on the ground.
I think basically, in terms of the mitigation strategies that they're coming up with, is more what I call plastering of the sore. You know?
Explain that.
The plastering of the sore means basically, okay, we can't find enough young Grenadians to work, so there is import. So
I support that, by the way.
Yeah, no, I definitely. So what I'm saying is that addressing the question that you just asked, rather than saying, okay,
spend time re-socializing, which is longer and more costly.
Yes, definitely. You know, so it's a very what I call cosmetic, very cosmetic way of addressing the issue. Okay, well, if they don't want to work, right now in Simon and the Cultural Center, there are over 20 Haitians. You understand, working. The Christian Academy School, there's been sanctions and so forth, working, which I personally doesn't really have a problem with. And I keep on telling people that all the time, you know, as a CARICOM region and what have you.
And you have to have production.
But my problem is basically, if there is a problem, the problem must be addressed. Because if we allow it to linger, you know, it will become worse and worse for us. And as Chris rightly says, in terms of social security in the future and what have you, I've heard one young man say that he's not working for anyone because when he reaches 65, the government must take care of him. You know, so he's in his 20s and already looking forward to see them.
The young people say, and I mean the question of underemployment, unemployment among youth is across the Caribbean, but many young people are saying they feel disconnected from the politics and uncertain about the future. What are they really saying beneath the surface? What are the real things?
Well, the disconnection has been around for quite a while. You know, we engage them, especially during the election period. For the votes, you know, we bring in artists and what have you to attract them. And we do not really appeal, you know, to their consciousness. You know, it's more emotional hype, you know, and so forth to get them to make decisions, voting decisions and so forth for particular parties and what have you, but to really engage them in a very conscious
way. So could I ask you this question, Claude? And I come into the same engagement that you're talking about. In our politics, we don't ever involve our potential politicians in a debate.
No.
To discuss and ask hard questions. even our young people, we not, the politicians are not offering themselves to debate with each other and to debate policy and to ask hard questions as what we say in there.
Yeah.
You know, how are we going to address what the young people are facing in terms of future and so on?
Definitely.
Do you believe that is something we should be doing?
Well, of course, you know, every election year, you know, I proposed, you know, to the politicians to have some debate, you know, could have it on a constituency level.
Right.
Yeah.
You understand me? Bring all the candidates together, and then you have a national, you can conclude with a national debate between the two all the
That's
political
right.
leaders and so forth. And that's why I talk about appealing to the consciousness. You understand me? Because you would have an emotional hype. You bring a artist, a foreign this, and people go, you know, and they wait for the artists. You understand me? You wait for the artists. But
You think they go there for that purpose?
well, many of them
Yeah.
basically go there.
Yeah.
You know, many of them. Just
Especially
a small
with a
percentage
popular
of a
artist.
crowd at a rally. You understand me? That will go to really listen attentively. It's a line. You know, and I'm telling you, it's really for the majority. I could say for the majority of people.
It's a lie.
It's a line.
And that form of politicking with these rallies was seen to not be effective in the last election cycle.
definitely.
Social media presence and talking about issues, what the party want to do, their manifesto seem to have been more effective because it's not our elderly they're going after. You know. Is the people in between 20 and 45. And these are people on their phones and looking at Facebook and looking at all these things. Or elderly, in a time for that, you come house to house and they'll give it a listen.
Definitely.
You know, so with that reorientation, do you believe our political parties are hitting the nail on the head?
I don't think so, you know.
We are three.
I really don't. I don't really, you know, because they still have this disengagement, Chris. You know, if you look at social media, you know, you will have a lot of political advertisements and
Right.
promotion of this and promotion of that. But in terms of seriously engaging, you understand me? Even with like the town hall, you know, that was started off on what have you, and it just faded away. You know, if that had continued. You know, because once you start engaging individuals and engaging the young people and what have you, and say, okay, look, this is what we expect. This is what, you know, and then it must be concrete. It must be concrete. It must be a lived reality. You're not just coming and promising them this and promising them that. You understand me?
Yeah.
And I work with a program under the previous administration called Empower.
Yeah.
And
But it was continued by...
but that's one of the most powerful and transformative youth program I've ever worked with.
You hear them, man.
You hear the word
understand me?
transformation.
Empower, you didn't mention Empower.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
and it was critical. You know, I mean, and when they started off, you know, I know for previous administration, they got a lot of criticism, you know, guys on the block and so forth. But I can point you right now to a number of young individuals who were actually transformed. Because you see, what we have to do in Grenada here is two concepts. One, development, the other is transformation. Right? And sometimes one could exist without the other.
Okay.
Right? So we could have the facilities
Yes.
that will facilitate
Yeah.
you
The
understand it?
transformation.
The transformation.
Yeah.
But if basically they are not managed properly, if basically policies, effective policies are not put in place.
Example?
Right? So, okay, let me take say, for the youth.
Yeah.
They are complaining about youth violence and youth this and youth that.
Yeah.
There is in sociology a theory called social control theory by one called Travis Hershey. And he basically proposed that, or theorized, once you engage the youth, you involve them. I could speak for Paradise, right? When I came back from school, I looked around Paradise. We had mass that went. We had big shot and jab that went. Steel pan that went. And I look at the village and say, no, we have to do something. So in 1998, I single-handedly founded the Paradise Football Club.
Still existing?
It's most vibrant.
Good.
And here, let me finish.
Yeah.
While I was coming down here, passed through Right Progress Park,
Yeah.
training taking place. They train from Monday to Thursday. So they basically are engaged, young people. When a Wagiti competition is coming up, they start going and price little animals because they are intentional. So the point I'm making is that once you involve them in something that is concrete, because what we do a lot in Grenada, we have a lot of programs, you know, we have a lot of trainings and so forth, and it ends right at the graduation.
The follow-up is
The
not
follow-up
there.
is not there.
Claude, I want to go a little deeper into the politics
Yeah.
here. The NDC won an overwhelming mandate in 2022. Midway through its term, well, a little bit midway is like, it's 4 years, that's not midway, that's three-quarter, What is your assessment of is performance relative to public expectations?
I'll take out the word overwhelming. It was not an overwhelming.
Overwhelming, they won.
But
With a big mandate, they had a mandate.
They had a mandate, but it was not an
Absolutely.
overwhelming.
Yeah, well, one will be 14 and 15.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so, but what has happened, and even today I had a conversation with an individual, we have to look at terms. The 5-year term is not really 5 years. The first term, basically, the first year, is what I call the honeymoon year.
100 days.
100 days. People will tell you, my name just start. So whatever was not done in the first year, that's okay, you know, and what have you. The second and the third year in your term in office as an administration, these are the most important years, right? Now, when you leave everything for the fourth year, lead it down to the election projects, you know, they do not have that great impact as it is hoped to have on the individuals, the voters and so, as projects basically that would have been taken place, you know, within the second year and the third year. Because let me take, for example, unemployment. So if you have party A's in office and, you know, first year, second year, third year, high levels of youth employment and this and that and the other, you know, and people basically are suffering, let's say for the first 3-4 years. What you do in the election year doesn't really impact them much.
So expectations has become unrealistic, you believe, or delivery slower than promised?
You see, and also too, in small island states and what have you, we have what you call personalism. The politics is very personal. The community is there, people interface. We don't have local government here. In Trinidad, Jamaica, you have local government. People don't go directly to the politician. They go to the councillor, they go to this, you know, they have water problems, you know, these kind of things. So it's a very personalized thing in Grenada here in terms of the politician. They're not seen by Byron Campbell, hey, give me a vote, and so, and what have you. And
I remember every week the politician meet with the constituents to find out how we could help them,
How
give
they
them
could help them and what
$40
have you.
here.
All right,
and so on.
and I think there has been a disengagement with that for most part. You know, the complaint on the ground was that from the electorate that they voted and now they feel abandoned.
Well, let me ask it this way.
Yeah.
This government have been criticized by us as well and myself that the communication
Very poor,
has been very poor.
very poor.
Right? They came in on a transformative agenda, and we struggle to understand what has been transformative in the first 4 years, right? To get and,
Chris?
yeah, well,
You.
well, and you could only name one. So the question is, when you go to the people now this time around to vote you back, what will be the theme? What will be the theme of your thing? Because this government they used to do the cabinet briefing every week. They brought it back, they stopped it. The social protocol, the social partners group, they disbanded that. So the issue is, and when you look at the communication and what is said, we had a journalist on this program saying that, you know, it is controlled.
Yeah.
And everything is within a context, and you can't ask questions outside
Of it.
So, what does that say to the minds of the people in terms of who may be proponents of the party or not?
Definitely.
Because there are a lot of people on the fence, you know, on this voting thing.
I know. And I'm glad you talk about a lot of people on the fence because this basically will influence, all right, even the outcome again of this election coming up. And people on the fence, there's an increasing number, I would say, of people on the fence right now. people who felt disappointed. You know, last election, for example, people experience what they call face fatigue. You know,
Face fatigue.
fatigue, yeah, you know. It's not that you're not effective anymore, but
Yeah.
just people just want a change.
Yeah.
You understand me?
Yeah.
Oh, we tired with it, man. Let me get somebody else fresh and nobody, you know what I mean? And even NNPites, you understand me? I could put it at as much as 20% of NNPites, basically. All right? Especially those marginal ones.
Yeah.
Not the hardcore, but marginal NNPites voted for the NDC. Because you wanted a change. You wanted a change. You just got tired, you know, face fatigue and so forth. But that has basically resulted in what I call regret votes. Regret
Any
votes.
evidence of this?
Yes, there are people who are speaking, especially in the rural areas now. They were promised permanent employment, right? In the end, they were actually sent home. You know, a lot of people suffered as a result of this, what I call rising hope and crashing
Through the transformative agenda.
because they really felt, you understand me? And even with the Prime Minister, the impact that he had last election, he would not have the same impact. This
Oh, he's an
election.
idol. He's
No,
loved by
you see-
most. Let me tell you, the data shows that 70%,
Yeah.
probably more now, of Grenadians admire admire him. You know, he's an idol.
Let me just share you.
What do you do?
Let me share what one Antiguan friend of mine told me. You know. See, people prefer the devil that feeds them and the angel that stabs them.
But that doesn't say that
No,
the
I'm
Prime
telling you,
Minister
hold on,
is one of the most popular persons.
Populism is one thing.
Ah.
You understand me? Populism is one thing, right? One of the most popular guys we had in Paradise, he once ran for election.
Yeah.
He got the least votes.
So
populism is one thing. People may like you, but the problem is we have to go beyond like. We have to go beyond veneration now. We have to go beyond these things. And what people are looking for, right? What people are basically looking for is, and Grenadians don't really need much, you know. If you look at the Grenadian lifestyle,
Yeah.
you understand. Grenadians are very
So let me
contented.
force you into answering this
Yeah,
question
yeah,
that
yeah.
you're talking about now.
Yeah.
So looking ahead, what are the key issues, let's say 3, whatever, are most likely to determine the next
The
election?
state of the economy. It's
But we already know that, we already
Yeah,
said the economy is doing very well, but still it's,
No,
so when you say the state of the economy,
Byron,
what exactly do you mean?
Byron, personal financial situation
So say
of the
that.
voters.
So say that.
Yeah, but it ties in with the state of the economy.
Economy.
You understand me?
But the economy could be doing well and
Yeah, but what I'm saying, when the economy is doing well and people have money in their pocket,
So that's going to determine,
right? Yeah, of course.
but is this likely to happen before the next election?
I doubt.
So
I doubt.
what else could determine the result? The economy plus what?
Well, you have a number of things that can, in terms of people's disappointment, there are people basically who expected.
And some of the constituency were won by 6 votes.
Well,
Some are a few hundred votes.
I brought this today because I had a feeling that this was going to come up today.
Yeah.
You understand me? In terms of the results of each constituency.
Yeah.
It's not by a lot. You understand me? It's not by, St. John's basically was the most marginalized.
Yes.
But if the
Marginal,
NDC has a majority of the diaspora voters coming in, that could move it in their direction. Those small margins.
Well, you don't know how the diaspora voting. You're assuming that they're
I'm
voting
assuming.
for the incumbent.
But according to, was it Justin Pierre? I don't recall who said that, but the NDC has the largest
Diasporic support.
diaspora support.
Yeah.
I don't think this is indisputable,
Yeah.
it seems.
But you see, again,
You have to hope that they're not on the fence.
yeah, it's just an assumption, eh?
So-
and politics, especially party politics in very small islands. And look what happened in St. Vincent. All right? Gonzales was assured by these two pollsters. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So, but Paul, the question is, the voting behavior becoming more issue-driven,
Well,
or
issue is-
personality,
issue is-
party loyalty still
We
dominate?
still have the personality issue with people like that.
Party loyalty,
and
yeah.
so forth. But at the end of the day, coming from the young people now
Yeah.
that are less loyal than you and you. You understand?
It's Chris, not me.
You know, and I would not say loyal to live together, but just being, they basically tend to vary in their discussions,
Yeah.
and when you listen to them, and so forth.
Yeah.
Many of them, for example, as I said, were disappointed because, Deacon came with his youthful swag, intelligence and what have you. Many of them were swept by that.
But let me
again-
push back for Deacon.
Yeah.
They created a creative sector. What we call it, the orange sector.
Yes,
yeah, the creative,
yeah.
Right. That seam, and I'm saying seam in inverted columns, have transferred to a lot of young people being offered the opportunity to develop in the creative arts, whether it's drama, whether it's music, whether it's paintings, whatever.
Yeah.
And you hear them talk about a lot of money is being put out there and available for young people to come in and register themselves, go with finance projects and so on. Do you think that is going to make a shift?
I don't think so, You see, let me tell you something. A lot of things basically that are part of the whole development process. And I think until these things that are affecting people in a very, what I call, a beneficial way, where a guy can say, okay, let me take on acting. And at the end of the day, the monies that I'm earning, you understand me? So not just creating opportunities for people to develop their talent, but when I develop my talent, what do I do with it? How do I transfer, you understand me, to a monthly income or a fortnightly income or so forth, and what have you, because that is the key issue, right? We can say, okay, there is talent here, whether it's in theater arts or this and what have you. Right? In the United States and other places, people become millionaires, billionaires out of those industries and what have you. Are the opportunities the same for them here?
Well,
Is it just
Trump just said that our Caribbeans ain't getting no visa to go and apply their trade in the US.
Well, yeah, is that so?
Yeah. Said so.
So really?
Yeah.
So even though we are Carnival and we have good music and our music quality continues to improve, it is limited within the Caribbean.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And the whole region like that, the whole region is like that. So yes, you may have opportunities being offered to young people to develop their talents and so forth and what have you. But how do we transition from here to here?
Claude, let's look again at the opposition. The opposition, NLP remains according to one of the strongest opposition in the region. That's unquestionable.
Yeah.
But has it successfully reinvented itself since 22, or is it still searching for a new identity? Well, where do you see it in terms of what are you seeing in the rural communities? Yeah.
Well, basically, and there is a political divide, right, in terms of the rural and the urban, right? You see more support, for example, in the rural areas for the opposition party right now, okay? And I'm speaking from being around in St. Andrew, touching base with St. Patrick and all of those constituencies and so forth, all right? So you look at the opposition. People basically had some what I call, ideas they had about the opposition that okay, it was just in transition, okay, that Mitchell basically would just allow Pierre, for a short period, and then he will return, and he will, people had this, that was bandied about, all over Grenada, and so forth. She was just there temporary, and what happened, and so forth. But as time progressed, what we saw basically is that she's becoming a more formidable force, because the NNP's culture is different from the NDC's culture. They're two different political cultures. You understand me? The NDC, for example, their voters basically scrutinize, they are more scrutinizers. NNP has a more what they call herd mentality. You present a candidate, you say this is a candidate for Northeast St. Andrew, Southwest St. Andrew, and without question, you rally, around that individual and try to build that individual and what have you. But you have situations where, right now within the NDC, for example, St. Andrews Northwest, where my good friend Delma Thomas basically is running for the NDC, and even up to recent, you still have this tug of war, between Gloria Thomas faction and Delma Thomas faction and so forth and what have you. I'm not saying that wouldn't exist within the NNP, but you rarely see those kinds of things. People sometimes see this as a weakness, you know, the opposition, their opposition, you know, that, oh, it's a cult and it's a this and it's a that and what have you. But that is part of their strength.
If you had to project an outcome in the next election, where would you project based on the trends you see?
Don't forget DPM as well.
Yes.
And the possible influence so they could fracture voting.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And cause what may be thinking as sure seats are now becoming toss-ups.
Yeah,
For example, St. George, Thomas St. George.
Thomas St. George is the seat that I have my eyes most on right now.
Yeah.
Right? Because some split votes, they basically can cause very unexpected results. You know?
St. Andrews Northwest is
St.
in the
Andrews
same.
Northwest basically the same
Same
as well,
thing, yeah.
right? Based on the data from the last election here
Yeah.
that I have before me, you have more battleground seats than you have seats in Grenada right
Yeah,
now.
you would project that.
Yeah,
So
I
you
project
see
that.
uncertainty. You
The
can't project.
uncertainty, you can't,
You're not
you know,
projecting.
Yeah, because the question sometimes I ask people, I meet both party members
Yeah.
who tell me they will win 12 and they will win this.
Yeah.
And when I ask the name, I just had that question that usually go unanswered.
Yeah.
Well, we win 9 seats already.
Can't
So
name the
just
9.
Name the 9 for me. You know, and it's difficult for them to do so because this election will be the mother of all elections.
Why you say that?
It will be a really tough election. Trust me, it will be a tough election.
So no clear outcome at this point.
At this point, you have, you know, and I agreed with the last poll results, you know, Justin Pierre put out when he talked about the safe seats, you know, the St. George Northwest, St. Andrews Northeast, St. Mark's, St. George Northeast. But my greatest surprise, I didn't mention St. David.
No, that was my surprise as well.
Yeah, you didn't mention
St. David.
Because when you look at St. David won by 1,672 votes.
It's very small.
You understand?
For the size of the
Yeah, for the size of the
constituency.
constituency. You understand me? So when you look at the marginal victories here, they're not large. All right? Carriacou 150.
Yeah.
Tongue of St.
Tongue of St. George,
St.
211.
St. John's.
St. John's was just 6 votes.
Yeah.
So it's close.
That's
Very
what I'm telling
close.
you. Very
Marginal.
Close. You understand me? And it is so marginal. You know, that you have certain...
But you made a point earlier in the beginning of the program that you mentioned about 20,000, no, not 20,000, 2,000?
about 20%.
20%.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that a fact?
That's a fact. That's
yeah.
a fact. Because you're talking...
And
to-
these people are disappointed. They're likely to...
They're disappointed.
They're likely to go
Yeah.
back into their...
Well, of course, they will go back home.
To the NNP.
Yeah, they will go back home.
Well, that can make a
Not
significant
all,
difference.
but the majority of them will go back home.
We are running out of time, Claude,
Yeah.
and before I pass you over to Chris, what are you seeing? How do you see the outcome? What are the issues going forward in particularly the rural communities now? What will what do you
Will cause a
observe?
momentum shift
Yeah.
to either side.
Bread and
Either
butter.
side.
The bread and butter
Bread and
issue.
butter.
Bread and butter issue. And you don't have to do any survey, official survey to just being around people.
Yeah.
That's a daily conversations every day. You know, you have individuals because in the previous administration, without being biased, with the previous administration, there was more money in circulation. You know, more money.
Well, through the road
Programs
and all of
and
those
so forth.
things.
Yeah.
For example, in one constituency at Christmas, you have 12 gangs,
Yeah.
11 gangs.
You're not
You
seeing
understand
this
that?
now.
You're seeing 2 and 3 and so forth, right? And I remember one conversation I had with George Brizan, which he told me, when you give a poor man $1, he spends 90 cents.
Yeah, that's correct.
You know,
It's economic
He
theory
spends-
as well.
economics, you know. He there is spreading joy, you know, in Grenville, blocking, he walking in the center of the road, the IBA, you know, and everybody getting something out of $1, right? Because it is in circulation. And it's basic economics. You put that out there. There's VAT, even on sugar.
So if you were
So the-
advising the present administration, what would you say to them?
I basically, in terms of employment,
Yeah.
I will generate more employment opportunities because they themselves will benefit tremendously from that,
What
especially
type
with
of
tax.
employment opportunity?
Well, you have, for example,
Because they don't want to work
let's-
in construction and agriculture,
Yeah.
so you had to be something else.
it has to be something else. So you have the micro, you know, a lot of young people are becoming very creative in doing this, juice, our ex-student, he sells by Republic Bank, and he wouldn't mind sharing that information with you.
No,
And
that's
so forth.
fine.
And he's doing extremely well.
In front of Republic Bank?
Yeah, right there. He
I've
sells
seen
over
it.
300 bottles of juice every day.
Excellent, excellent.
You understand? And he employs, I think, about 4 to 5 individuals.
Right,
with
and
him.
that's what the rural economy
And that's the
is.
point I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so you create those opportunities, you know, not just for the individual, but it has a multiplying effect. So that individual will go on and employ 3, 4 individuals. So it doesn't have to be some medium-sized business that employs 20-something, 30-something people at one time. So if you have 10 small micro businesses in one constituency that employs at least 5 to 6 persons, that is 60.
It's a big deal.
That's a big deal. You understand me? And these are the things basically I would advise them to do, you know, to create those kinds of opportunities for
But that has
individuals.
always been a rule and a fact,
Yeah.
that when the rural economy, micro businesses can develop, they will create employment at all levels.
Definitely.
And particularly among our women, I must say.
Especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially, and as our women are the heads of homes in most instances economically, it multiplies. And the
Definitely.
children and everybody understands. So my last thing to you, you know, I am concerned about the social re-engineering of our people
Okay.
in general,
Definitely.
and particularly among our men, because we don't have men who are open. In Grenada, we have an interesting thing. You could don't work, rhyme on the blocks all day, but you will eat,
Yes, definitely.
drink, and wear clothes, because we have a lot of things coming in from the diaspora
Yeah.
still. So we don't see the need. Whereas if we bring Venezuelans, say Cubans, say, or Haitians, they have a need
You have an idea.
to keep working because they need to transfer money back to their families.
Definitely.
So again, I say to you, and from my observations, we have to have a balance in how we bring in foreigners.
Definitely.
And I don't know if this government is paying attention to that in a significant way. We bring in Haitians on one side, and we had a guy on this program who say he tried to get Haitians and they block him.
True. But I understand as much as 40 Haitians came in recently.
Yeah, recently.
Yeah, yeah,
Construction,
yeah.
50 in fact,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
number. Of course, we have the time.
Yeah, yeah,
You have to.
So,
but
yeah.
Claude, but you have to come back, yeah? Because
Well, we're
just
getting
starting
closer
this.
to the
Yeah,
election and so on,
absolutely.
so it'll be interesting to see how your analysis go.
Okay.
And if there's any change, because I believe any party that has a significant momentum going into this election
Definitely.
will have an impact on the undecided and where they vote.
Well, of course. And then again, I was looking at Peter Wickham's, you know, I think it was in the news last night or something.
Yes.
Right, and that again has, the NDC has to be careful with that, you know, because...
It was very favorable to the NDC. His
But in
comments,
recent
yeah.
times, he has not been getting it. He has not been getting it.
You
question.
Yeah, in most jurisdictions, he has been wrong.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
most
yeah.
jurisdictions.
Whereas
You know?
Justin Pierre has been right.
And Justin Pierre has been right.
And they
You know, so-
criticize Justin
Yeah,
Pierre.
definitely. But,
Ah.
Do you think those
but you see,
criticisms are justified?
you see poll results at this time will create 2 effects, you know, bandwagon and boomerang. You understand me? The hope is that it will create a bandwagon effect.
Yes.
You know, people will align their votes to the majority if they stay at the majority. But it could also, you understand me, create a boomerang effect. Whereas people say, oh gosh, but we don't want this guy and him again, but let me go. I didn't vote last election. Let me get up and go and vote and take my whole family and go
Exactly,
and
so
vote
this can
now. So
happen.
they have to be very careful with that. But he has not, you know, been very accurate, you know, with his predictions in recent times. So they should not take consolation, you know, in that at this moment. You know, I want to believe that Pierre's, you know, research basically, you know,
It's more
is
balanced.
valid.
Having more
There's no
balance.
validation and so forth.
Chris,
like that.
final comments we have.
No,
to
no,
close, yeah.
I don't have any more final comments. I think as Claude goes along, you know, understanding the dynamics in the rural sector of the economy is going
Yeah,
to be
it's
significant
very, very
in terms of how people
important.
vote. Based on the margins
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
that you
yeah.
detailed in the last election, because those margins are very close.
Very close,
Yeah,
very,
very
very
close,
close.
yeah.
Very, very, very close.
Viewers, that's all the time we have. I want to thank our technical staff, MTV management, and you, viewers, for being with us this evening. So we'll see you next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.